So UFC 317 is in like 48 hours and we finally got an announcement for it. And we're going to get Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria headlining the card for the vacant lightweight belt. So it's not going to be for the interim belt. Islam Makhachev decided to vacate his belt. Or, I mean, Dana White, the UFC, they basically stripped him. I mean, they basically said, listen, you're not going to keep the belt. You're not going to hold up the division. So you're going to have to vacate your belt if you want to go up. So, he was basically forced to vacate. But either way, he decides to vacate his belt to go up to the welterweight division to fight Jack Della Maddalena. And on the live stream, Dana White said that fight is basically confirmed. He doesn't have a date for it yet, but JDM says he's down. Islam Makhachev obviously says he's down. He's moving up. I'm guessing that fight's going to take place sometime in September, but that's an awesome matchup. I know we don't get the Makhachev-Ilia Topuria fight, but man, the JDM-Makhachev fight, that's going to be a good fight. Like, to me, that fight is almost just as good, almost just as hyped for it. So that's going to be a pretty sweet fight after what JDM just did to Bilal Muhammad. I think a lot of people were counting him out with the wrestling. So against Islam Makhachev, that's going to be a 50-50 fight. I think the odds makers have it pretty much 50-50. So that's going to be a sweet fight. And I'm glad, I think if anyone deserved to keep their belt while being able to go up to fight for double champ status, it would have been someone like Islam Makhachev. But, if he did keep his belt, then he wouldn't be fighting till probably September or October. He fought a few months ago, so the lightweight belt wouldn't have been defended for like 9 months. And then if he won that fight, he probably would have vacated the lightweight belt anyway. I don't think he would have come back down. But then we would have waited all that time, and there would have been just an interim belt. And then even if he lost to JDM, he wouldn't be defending his belt until at least a few months after that. So the lightweight belt would have just been on ice for over a year. So I think it's a good move that he vacated the belt. And we have Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. Sick fight. This is a sick fight. Arman Tsarukyan is definitely the number one contender. He deserves to have this matchup. Charles Oliveira just lost to him 2 fights ago. Then he beat Michael Chandler. So he beat Michael Chandler. Now he's getting a title shot. So, that's kind of, it's kind of crazy. Ilia Topuria, I know that he only defended his belt once, but he knocked out Volkanovski. He knocked out Max Holloway. He vacated his belt. He definitely risked something big. If he loses to Charles Oliveira, he will have vacated his belt, and then who knows where he goes from there. So, I think he deserves it, but it should have been Arman Tsarukyan. But it's going to be Charles Oliveira, and it's going to be Ilia Topuria. And in this fight, man, like against Islam Makhachev or even Arman Tsarukyan, I think Ilia Topuria would have had a very, very tough fight there. And I probably would have favored Islam Makhachev slightly. And even Arman Tsarukyan. I think Arman Tsarukyan could have won that fight. So Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, is getting a really nice matchup for himself to get the belt, because I think that he's going to make this fight look pretty easy. Charles Oliveira is good, man. He's really good. He's been one of the best lightweights in history. Former champion. He defended his belt a couple times. Knocked out or submitted Justin Gaethje, submitted Dustin Poirier, knocked out Michael Chandler. Lost to Islam Makhachev in pretty dominant fashion. But, dude, Charles Oliveira is also getting up there in age. He's not the young up-and-comer. He was in his prime a couple years ago. I think he's kind of leaving his prime now. And we kind of saw that against someone like Michael Chandler. He took Michael Chandler to a hard-fought 5-round decision. I mean, he won the first 4 rounds. And then Michael Chandler hit him on top of the head or in the back of the head and won that 5th round. Barely scraped by the 5th round. And he took Michael Chandler to a decision. And then you see what Michael Chandler's been doing recently. Like, that's not a very good look. To be taking Michael Chandler to a 5-round decision. And he was really patient in that fight. I think Charles Oliveira kind of realizes, like, he's been dropped in almost every single fight that he's had recently. And I think that's going to be that's going to be problems going into a fight with Ilia Topuria. But Oliveira has been very patient. He's taking a more patient approach. And the reason that Charles Oliveira has been one of my favorite fighters is because of the way that he would just always go for the finish, man. He would get punched, he'd get knocked down, he would get back up, and he would go right back to work, trying to get the finish. Didn't give a shit what was coming back. But against Ilia Topuria, I'm guessing he's going to take the patient approach. He's probably going to be on the back foot, most likely. Ilia Topuria is going to be coming forward. And Ilia Topuria, man, his boxing, I think it's him and Jack Della Maddalena as the two best pure boxers. Like, not just striking overall, but just pure boxing. I think Ilia Topuria is the best. I think Jack Della's right there as well. But, dude, Ilia Topuria, he's going to be dangerous for Charles Oliveira. Obviously, Charles could go out there. He could get a takedown. He could try to take the back of Ilia Topuria. But Ilia Topuria, he has a background in grappling. He wasn't a striker in his early MMA days. He was actually a grappler. So he's going to be able to defend off any submissions if it gets to that point. Charles Oliveira will be a lot bigger. I think he'll be a lot taller. But Charles Oliveira is not very strong. He's not very strong. Against Islam Makhachev, like, Makhachev was throwing him around like a rag doll, man. And it looked like Charles Oliveira had like that featherweight sort of strength. He looked like he was a weight class below in terms of strength. And Ilia Topuria is a huge dude, man. Ilia Topuria walks around at like 190 or something crazy like that. He cuts a lot of weight, which is why he wasn't wanting to fight at featherweight anymore. But he's probably going to bulk up a little bit. He's going to be stronger, in my opinion. So I don't think Charles Oliveira is going to be able to wrestle him very well. I don't think he's going to be able to take his back. And the way I see this fight going is Ilia Topuria is going to be on the front foot. Charles Oliveira is going to be on the outside. And I think eventually they're going to go in for some exchanges. And I think Ilia Topuria is going to knock him out pretty brutally. I don't think this is going to be a TKO. I think this is going to be a nasty punch right to the freaking face. And Charles Oliveira might go out cold. His chin is not very good. Like, he's really good at recovering. He has great recovery. But he gets knocked down all the time. Like, he got knocked down against Justin Gaethje, against Poirier, against Makhachev. He's getting knocked down. Any fighter that he's fighting that's elite or in the top of the division, he's gonna get dropped by. Like, he got dropped pretty badly against Michael Chandler in their first fight. And these guys have power, but Ilia Topuria has a ton of power. And I think his power will translate really well, because I know that featherweight, obviously, he had tons of power. He's going to be moving up 10 pounds to the lightweight division. So the question is his power going to translate? And I think it is, because just pure power, he's amazing. Pure power, he has tons of it. But Ilia Topuria, his power also comes from his precision. It also comes from his technique. And it comes from his accuracy. So I think that everything combined together, his power will translate to the lightweight division. And I think Charles he's going to be a little too patient. I think if he wants to beat Ilia Topuria, he is going to have to be a little more aggressive, because Ilia Topuria is really good on the front foot. He's really good at pressuring, but I don't think Charles is going to pressure. I think he's going to be the one that's backing up most of the time. And if Topuria gets him along the fence, I think it's going to be game over. So I see a knockout probably in the first 2 rounds. I think that it could happen in the first, maybe towards the end of the first, maybe early in the second round. So I don't think I don't think Charles Oliveira is going to get dropped. I think it's going to be, he's going to get hit, he's going to go down, and it's going to be a couple hammer fists. It's going to be similar to the Holloway, except I think Charles is going to go down even worse. He's getting up there in age. I love Charles Oliveira, and I don't want to see him lose, but I also think Topuria, if he wins this, it's going to be fun for the division. Like, we've seen Charles Oliveira, we've seen him fight Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. We've seen him fight a lot of guys in the lightweight division. And so if Ilia Topuria wins, there's going to be a lot of fresh, really fun matchups for him. So I don't want to see any of these guys lose, but I definitely see Ilia Topuria winning. He's on another level, man. He's on another level. Against Makhachev, that would have been a close fight. But I think against Charles Oliveira, I think his power is going to be too big, man. His power is going to be too big. But we also got another fight for UFC 317 in the co-main. It's going to be Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. And I thought this fight was going to happen. Kai France, he just knocked out Steve Erceg. He knocked him out pretty bad as well. But man, Pantoja, he is getting up there in age as well. He's going to be 35 in the flyweight division, but I haven't seen any signs of him slowing down. And Kai France, to me, he's a bit of a one-trick pony, man. He's a bit of a one-trick pony. Like, he has really good overhands. He has tons of power. And I think in order to beat Pantoja, you have to have a lot of power. And there's just not a lot of guys in the flyweight division that have a lot of power. But Kai France does. He has a lot of it. He knocks a lot of guys out. But he is pretty short. He's pretty small. And Pantoja, man, he's one of the grittiest fighters in the UFC. He always looks like he's tired when it gets to the later rounds, but he always grits through. Great grappling. He's a gritty, scrappy boxer. So, I mean, I don't see anyone beating Pantoja. And I think in order to beat him, you do have to have power. It's going to be Pantoja just like getting up there in age, slowing down, and I think it's going to hit pretty fast, and that's when he'll lose. So it could happen in this fight. But I don't see anyone beating him. I think that this is going to be a pretty easy fight for Pantoja. If he can kind of weather the storm, maybe in the first round, he might take a couple shots here and there. But Pantoja is a freaking blockhead, man. He has a freaking boulder of a head. So I don't think he's going to get knocked out. And if he's not going to get knocked out, especially early, I think he's going to take over starting in the third round. And I think he's going to probably submit Kai France. Kai France has good takedown defense. And he is pretty good at defensive grappling. So maybe this could go to a decision. And if it does go to a decision, I think Pantoja is going to take over. I think he's going to be too much for him. Kai France, he doesn't have enough tools to be able to beat someone like Pantoja. Blockhead Pantoja. So I'm going to take Pantoja. I'm going to take him by submission. But I could definitely see it going to a decision. And I would favor Pantoja in a decision as well. There's also some other fun fights on the card, like we have Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov, Beneil Dariush, Renato Moicano, Brandon Royval, Manel Kape. That's going to be a number one contenders fight, I think. So there's some pretty good fights. Jack Hermanson versus Gregory Rodriguez. Like, it's a pretty good card, honestly, for International Fight Week. It's pretty good. It's a pretty decent card. I think the main event's going to be fun. I think Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov will be a really fun fight. But, dude, Dana White also announced UFC 318 or 319, which is going to be Dricus Du Plessis, mate, versus Khamzat Chimaev. This is the fight we've been waiting for as well. And, dude, I'm going to take... I think that this is a really tough matchup for Chimaev. Because Chimaev, he's really good, man. Chimaev is obviously amazing. We know how good he is on the ground. His grappling, his wrestling... And I think he is going to be able to take down Dricus Du Plessis, especially in the first round, maybe the first two rounds. Du Plessis is not very good on his back, but he's a big dude, man. Like if you talk about a guy built like a statue, it's Dricus Du Plessis. The guy is freaking built. And I think he's going to be able to weather the storm, especially in the first round. And we know Dricus Du Plessis has amazing cardio. Even when he's tired, like in the fourth and fifth rounds, he always pushes through. He has freaking plot armor all over him, all over his body. And I think he's going to be able to weather the storm. And I think he's going to be able to finish Chimaev in the later rounds. I think that's how I see the fight going. Chimaev's amazing. And I think Chimaev he could get close. There could be a few moments in the first round where, he's trying to get Du Plessis back and he's trying to hunt for submissions. But I think Dricus is going to be able to survive. Dricus is smart. He's a very smart fighter. And I think a lot of people underrate that because he just looks like a dumbass out there, the way that he throws. Like, he doesn't look technical. He doesn't look like he knows what he's doing half the time, but it works. It works. So I think he'll be able to survive. And I think he's going to finish Chimaev probably in like the third or fourth round. Chimaev's tough. And against, guys like Gilbert Burns, he went to a war with him. But he got pretty tired. He did get kind of tired, but he gritted through. That was mainly a striking match. And I think if Chimaev goes for the submissions and he wrestles a ton early, that tires him out a lot. We saw that against Kamaru Usman, man. A couple fights ago against Kamaru Usman, he wrestled hard early. and then he basically just struck for the next 2 rounds. He won the fight barely. That was a very close fight, but he was tired, man. He looked tired out there. He didn't look like he had the energy that he did in the first round. He didn't look like he had much for Kamaru Usman, especially in the wrestling. So I'm going to take Du Plessis, and I'm going to take him by finish in the 3rd or 4th round. And I think he's probably going to finish him. He's going to finish him. And I think that's going to be a fun fight. Either way, it's a really fun fight. Whoever wins, there's going to be really fun matchups in that division. You have Nasruddin Imavov on the come up. You have Khyber Alho as well. So, yeah, great matchup. Really, really fun matchup. The last thing is Dana White did say, he started mentioning Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, and then he kind of coughed, dude. He was like, oh yeah, I mean, that fight's gonna happen. Yeah, that fight's definitely gonna happen. But he mentioned again, man, he seems pretty confident that the fight's gonna happen. And if it is gonna happen, my guess is at the earliest it could happen in October, because there's a fight card, a pay-per-view card there. But my guess is it's going to happen in November if it does happen at the Madison Square Garden card. That's where Jon Jones likes to fight. That fight's probably going to... I think it's going to happen, man. I think it could happen for sure. He seems confident that it is, so we'll see what happens there. But then we have Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev. They're going to fight later in the year. Jack Della Maddalena was on the Ariel Helwani podcast, and he mentioned, man, he's like, yeah, I'll fight in September, maybe October. He said, I feel pretty good. I could fight in August as well. But that's obviously going to be the Du Plessis Chimaev card. So I'm guessing this fight's going to happen in September. And that's going to be a really good fight. The odds on this are like 50-50. And I definitely agree with that. I see this as a 50-50 fight. Maybe before the Bilal Muhammad fight, maybe I think I would have seen, or a lot of people would have seen Jack Della as an underdog there. But I picked Jack Della Maddalena in the Bilal Muhammad fight because I knew how good his defensive grappling was. I knew how good he was at getting up. I knew how good his takedown defense was. He was working with Craig Jones. I had a lot of confidence in it. And obviously I knew how good his boxing was, his striking. But I think in this fight against Islam Makhachev, I think Islam Makhachev, he always has the physicality advantage. He has the size advantage. He's huge for lightweight. So, he has time to build up into the welterweight division. But Jack Della, dude, he's big as well. Jack Della is really big for the welterweight division. So I don't think that Islam Makhachev is going to have a huge strength advantage. I think that it's going to be pretty even there. But again, Bilal Muhammad and Islam Makhachev, very different grapplers. Bilal Muhammad is a very good pier wrestler. He's a very, very good pier wrestler. Islam Makhachev is not as good in the wrestling. He's not as good in the wrestling, and you kind of think, oh, wait, Islam Makhachev is not as good as Bilal Muhammad in the wrestling. No, not in the pure wrestling. In the sambo, in the judo, Islam Makhachev is amazing, and that's where he gets his takedowns. And he likes to push people up against the fence, which is exactly what Bilal Muhammad does. Islam Makhachev, to get guys down in the middle of the octagon, he doesn't do very well there. And we saw that against Dustin Poirier. His whole game plan for Dustin Poirier, or with Dustin Poirier, was to not stay on the outside, because that's exactly where Islam Makhachev gets his takedowns. He's really good at tripping. He's really good at pushing guys up in the clinch, dragging them down. But if he can't get Jack Della Maddalena there, it's going to be really tough for him. And I think Jack is way better in the boxing. But Islam Makhachev, obviously, he's a really, really good striker. I think he's very underrated there. Against Bilal Muhammad, Islam Makhachev is way better than Bilal Muhammad in the striking, so I think he'll have a lot more success when he's pushing forward. But he's also really good on the back foot as well. He's super good at countering. So against Jack Della, I could see him having a lot of success in the counter shots. But there were some shots, man, that Bilal Muhammad took against Jack Della that most guys aren't going to be able to take. I don't know what Bilal's head is made out of, but it's granite. It has to be granite. It has to be some sort of hard stone, some sort of hard metal, because any regular freaking men aren't going to be able to take those shots. Islam Makhachev has a good chin. He does. He has a very good chin, and it could be even better going up to welterweight because he did drain himself to lightweight. But if Jack Della can throw some of these shots that he hit Bilal Muhammad with, I could see Islam Makhachev getting rocked bad. And I think his wrestling isn't going to be as good in this fight. It's not going to be as good because we even saw against Dustin Poirier, who's an amazing striker, an amazing boxer. We saw Islam Makhachev struggle a little bit there, especially with the wrestling in the later rounds. In the first round, he almost got the submission. In the later rounds, he struggled, and Dustin Poirier had a lot of success defending the takedowns. Jack Della is really good at defending takedowns. He's really good at getting back up. I think Islam Makhachev will have a lot more success if he is able to get it down. Belal Muhammad, he has some pretty good top control, but he doesn't have any good submissions. You know, he's not going to be threatening Darce chokes. And I think if it does get to the ground, there are some moments with Jack Della Maddalena, the way that he rolls around, the way that he gets back up to his feet. I think Islam will have opportunities to sync up a Darce choke, to sync up some sort of submission, because Jack does leave his neck out there a little bit. So obviously I think he's going to be training to avoid that. He does have Alexander Volkanovski in his corner, or at least to train with, you know, kind of pick his brain. But dude, Alexander Volkanovski, his strength against Islam Makhachev was incredible. Islam Makhachev, he didn't look very strong against Volkanovski. And I think that's going to be interesting. Dustin Poirier said that Islam Makhachev's strength is incredible. But I think that against Jack Della, a guy who's big, I don't think Jack Della is going to be smaller than Islam Makhachev. I think Islam, I don't know if he'll be able to have the strength advantage. I think it's going to take place a lot on the feet. And I definitely favor Jack Della Maddalena there. I do see this as a 50-50 fight. But I think I lean slightly to Jack Della. And I think I'm going to pick him to get the knockout. I don't think if Islam Makhachev takes some of those shots, if Jack Della can hit him with some of those shots that he hit Belal Muhammad with, I think he's going to get rocked eventually. I think he will, man. I think he will. But I also could see Jack Della getting submitted if he gets in some of those bad positions on bottom. So it's going to be an interesting fight. Also, Jack Della Maddalena, he has amazing knees. He has really good leg kicks. And Islam Makhachev struggles a little bit with the leg kicks. He does. He struggles a little bit there. And so I could see Jack Della chewing up the leg kicks a little bit. His body work is obviously going to be very effective if he's able to hit Islam to the body a little bit more. But it's going to be a close fight. I favor Jack Della. And yeah, how do you guys see the fights going? Are you excited about these matchups? I think there's some pretty good fights. I'm excited that 317 is finally announced. And yeah, let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next one. Later.